All right. Great. I'm going to call to order the Thursday, December 7th regular meeting for the Board of Adjustments. Diane, can you please call the roll?
Brenda Cullinan, absent. Jesse Slasser.
Here.
Mike Miles, absent. Alec Hayes.
Here.
Richard Kasser.
Here.
Seth Mitchell.
Present.
Aurora Ramirez.
Here.
Great. So we're actually going to modify this a little bit. The approval of the agenda needs to come before election of officers, but board members or staff, are there any changes to the agenda?
There's no changes.
Okay. And then I'm requesting the approval of the agenda be made item 3 and election be item 4. So I get a motion to approve as amended.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Diane, do you need names or are you ready for the roll?
No, I'm good. Brenda Cullinan is absent. Jesse Slasser.
Yes.
Michael Miles is absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
Great. So the next item is the election of officers. We're going to begin with the chairperson, then move to vice chairperson and second vice chairperson. Just a reminder, board members that are not present can be nominated for those positions as well. So the process will start with the chairperson. I'll ask if there's any nominations. If I get a nomination, I'll ask for a second. Depending on how many nominations we have for the position, we'll discuss how Diane will do the roll call, but if it's just a single individual, it'll just be a yes, no, just like any other motion. So this time I'm going to open the election officers for the chairperson. Do I have any nominations?
You want to be chair?
Not particularly.
Alex, do you want to be chair?
I can be.
I nominate Alex.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Are there any additional nominations? Diane, can you please call the roll?
Brenda Cullinan is absent. Jesse Slasser.
Yes.
Mike Miles is absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes, you can vote for yourself.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
Congratulations, Chairperson Hayes. Now we'll open the nominations for Vice Chairperson.
Are we allowed to nominate ourselves?
Absolutely.
I'll nominate myself for vice chairperson.
Second.
Any other nominations? Okay, Diane, can you call the roll?
Brenda Cullinan is absent. Jesse Slasser.
Yes.
Mike Miles is absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Kasser. And now we have nominations for second vice chair.
I'll nominate myself.
Second.
Any additional nominations? Diane, can you please call the roll?
Brenda Cullinan is absent. Jesse Slasser.
Yes.
Mike Miles is absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
And congratulations, Mr. Mitchell. At this time, I hand the meeting over to the chairperson. I believe Diane likes the individuals to sit in the appropriate chairs. So we'll do a little musical chairs right now. I think Diane will let you know. I think you're fine there, but I'll let Diane, or
So you're
maybe
there,
Jen's coming.
and then Vice is to the right, and second Vice is to the left.
Yes.
I just want to say that I'm honored. Thank you very much. I will need a little bit help today from William.
Absolutely, Chair. So we're item number 5 would be next, which is minutes, but there are none. So at this time, we'll be swearing in the public. So if you intend to speak on any item before the board today, please stand and be sworn by the liaison.
Please raise your right hand. By the authority vested in me, the notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And now, do we have any comments from the public before the presentation? That would be on any topics, right?
For non-agenda items.
Non-agenda items, yes.
Hi, good evening, board members, and congratulations on the new appointments. My name is Kristen Nowicki. I'm with WGI. We were here in the October meeting, which was the last time this board met, and I presented an application for 2 variances. One of those variances was denied, and for various reasons, we are requesting reconsideration. I am going to need to yield to the attorney about some of the procedures on this because this is kind of a new thing for me, and we were discussing with staff, and I understand the board members who voted against the request that was who would be able to make a motion, and one of those board members is no longer on the board. The other one is apparently absent this evening, so I'm not sure where we go from here.
I'd have to review the record, but right now it's public comment, so I think what's probably the most appropriate is to allow the individual to have their 3 minutes to speak, and then that might be something we would address most likely at the end of the meeting under board comments.
Okay, and I do have a letter also, so that may be an opportunity if I could pass that out. The application was for, we were calling it Milford Industrial. It was at 1215 Milford Street, and it is for a commercial industrial building. And the property in the area, this is just off of Linton and Wallace Road industrial area. That area has gone through a lot of changes in many years with residential properties becoming commercial and industrial. So what you have is a lot of lots that are very small because they were houses. In fact, this specific lot was a house. So we are seeking relief from certain setbacks in order to make for proper circulation of vehicles, trucks, to be able to back into the building and line up with the overhead doors. So it's almost impossible to develop without adding additional property, and neither of the neighbors are interested in selling, which is no fault of the applicant. They did try even a second time just recently. So we are requesting to discuss that a little further. And I do, like I said, I have a letter, shows maps, and I recognize several of the board members wouldn't know this application as not being here in October. So it's just a little challenging, but I do request reconsideration, and if it's appropriate now, I could pass out the letter.
We have some, I think you can hand stuff to the board during your comments if you'd like.
Okay. Do you mind?
Just make sure there's a copy for the secretary as well.
I believe there's 7 or 8 right there. And then, as you stated, if reconsideration is considered, it would be later in the meeting.
I would advise the board, I think during public comment, the board typically does not engage in discussion or back and forth. You accept the information, and then at the conclusion of the meeting, or at the end of the meeting, there's a section specifically for discussion by the board or commentation by the board. So we would, if board members would like to discuss this, it's probably most appropriate to be done at that time.
Did I pass out more than I needed to? Did anyone get a map? Oh, never mind, I have it, sorry. Okay, so thank you very much, and I will stick around, and if this can be discussed at the end of the meeting, I would appreciate it.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? I assume we don't, so we will be moving to presentations. Ex parte communication, is it before each one
So-
or after?
So what we'll do is the next section is quasi-judicial hearings. So I believe there should be a short statement regarding quasi-judicial hearings. So the chair typically reads that at this time. And then we'll call each individual item, and as each item is called, we'll ask for the ex parte at that time.
Should I read item 8A?
So Diane, is the quasi-judicial
Yes, she has
rule
it in
statement up
front of
there?
her.
We're talking about prints or on the screen?
You should have it in the plastic covers there.
Inside? Okay.
It's right there. You can read right through it. Quasi.
Am I not seeing something? Oh, this one, right? The other
Yes.
print. Okay.
Yes.
And it may, at some points, it may say commission. If you say commission, we understand it means also this board, but you can also say the board anywhere you might see commission as well.
All right. This hearing shall be conducted in accordance with the City of Delray Beach quasi-judicial rules. The applicant and the city shall be permitted to present their case. The public shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each, or a maximum of 6 minutes, if the person represents an organization or a group of people who are present, but agree not to speak. The city board members, staff, and the applicant may be allowed to cross-examine a witness. The city or the applicant will be allowed to offer rebuttal testimony. The decision to approve or deny an application or appeal may not legally be made upon personal views as to whether a project is a good project or not, nor may a decision be based on the numbers of citizens who support or oppose a particular project. The law requires that all decisions must be made on the basis of whether the project meets the requirements of law, the comprehensive plan, and the land development regulations. There is also a summary. Is it also something that I read, or
How does that begin?
I swear in witnesses?
Oh, no.
So we'll be just
No, so that was the conclusion of the quasi-judicial statement.
Gotcha.
So at this time, we would call the first item, which is 8A, the 509 Rye Lane. We typically ask staff to enter the file into the record and then help the applicant get set up.
Good evening, board members, and welcome. For the record, I'm entering file number 2023-268, and the applicant, Hugh Dean Fuller. The property owner is here to present.
Hi everyone, my name is Dean Fuller. I am the owner of 509 Rye Lane with my wife. So we are submitting a variance request to add a swimming pool to the property. So here is the overview of the property there. It has, as of right now, 2 driveways on the house. So there's a rounded driveway on the right-hand side there, which is the east side, and also one on the west. Let me see. We're requesting to allow a swimming pool for 509 Rye Lane in the front setback area with a 15-foot setback from the front property line, which is on Enfield Road. So as you can see here, this is the east side, the rounded driveway there, which is where we plan to put the pool if it is allowed. And as you can see now, we've started some work. We were able to get a fence permit pulled and start that process. So we were able to remove the driveway and fence it all in there. So here is the proposed site plan. On that right survey there, in the blue is the actual pool location, which is about 15 feet 8 inches off of the property line. And you can see the fence in green and the home in red. So we are looking to have the Enfield Road submitted as the side street instead of currently the front street. And as you can see in this neighborhood, we have a couple different lots that are the same setup. And these two both have it in their front setbacks, 315 Kings Lynn and 210 Enfield Road. And so here I went through the different variance criteria that I submitted along with the paperwork already. I'm not sure if this is something that I should go through too. Yeah. So the property is a peninsula lot with frontage on Rye Lane and Enfield Road, with the address and driveway residing on Rye Lane. There's no yard space on the property that is not technically frontage due to the house location on the property. So the proposal is to allow Enfield Road to be treated as a side street so that a swimming pool can be constructed with at least a 10-foot setback instead of a 25-foot setback. For Article B, the literal interpretation would prohibit a pool in the front setback of the property, which is the entire yard space of the lot, depriving the applicant of the opportunity to install a pool in the same location as other peninsula properties. For C, the standard setback set by the city forced this lot shape to only have front streets. Therefore, these requirements have not been created as a result of the applicant's actions. The pool would be permissible in the location if the Enfield Road was deemed a side street with standard setbacks. For D, other peninsula lots on the same street with the same zoning were permitted pools on front setbacks, so we would not be given any special privilege. E, the pool will fall within standard side street setbacks and not change any standard city codes, making it a minimal variance request. And for F, as seen in the previous images, the pool will be located within the newly approved and installed privacy fence, so granting the variance will not be injurious to any neighbors, as it's only providing a private pool to the applicant. And thank you for your time.
Is it now the time for city's presentation?
It would be. I'm going to ask if the chair could request ex parte communications, though.
Yes. Do we have an ex parte communication on this project? No? No ex parte communication.
Okay, good evening, board members again. For the record, Alexia Howell. The application under consideration is for variance to allow a pool within the front setback. So a little definition of a variance. A variance is a relaxation of the land development code where the variance approval would not be contrary to the public interest and where peculiar conditions to the property, not a result of the landowner, the literal enforcement of the regulations would result in unnecessary and undue hardship. Some information on the property. The subject property is located at the corner of Enfield Road and Rye Lane at 509 Rye Lane, just north of Lake Ida, east of Swinton, within the Lake Ida Overlay District. There's an existing single-family home on the 10,315 square foot lot. The zoning district is R1AA single family with a land use designation of low in density, and the surrounding properties are zoned R1AA with single family. So the subject property is a legal lot of record recorded in 1953 as Lot 15 of the Chevy Chase subdivision with lot dimensions of 161.08 along Enfield and Rye Lane and 64.86 feet 86 feet along the abutting neighboring properties to the north. As you can see by the plat, the angled street called Enfield Road creates triangular shapes at the intersections, so that includes Lot 15. In 1957, the existing single-family home was built with a one-car garage accessible from Rye Lane and a circular driveway access from Enfield Road. Here's the yellow card, which is the original building permit card. You can see the outline of the existing home and the 12 by 25 one-car garage. Based on the aerial image, the single-family home is built as approved in 1957. And here are some existing photos of the subject property. The upper left is a photo of the intersection looking at the corner of Rye Lane and Enfield, and you can see the PVC fence at the corner. To the right of that photo is a little shot interior of the corner lot with the tree. The bottom left photo is interior of that corner lot looking north. To the left is Rye Lane. To the right is Enfield Road. You can see that circular driveway right there. And then to the right is a shot from Enfield Road looking at the property where the circular driveway is existing. So the applicant is requesting a pool within the front yard setback adjacent to Enfield Road to encroach 14.2 feet into the minimum required 30-foot yard setback to establish a pool setback of 15.8 feet. There are specific code regulations for pool locations and allowed encroachments. Per section 4615 G1, pools may extend into the rear, interior, or street side setback area, but no closer than 10 feet from the property line, and pools are not allowed to extend into the front setback area. So first we have to determine the frontage on this lot. Pursuant to section 434 base district development standards, each lot is required to have frontage, and the front of a lot is the side with frontage on a street. On corner lots, the side having the least frontage shall be the front for setback purposes. Where a corner lot has frontage on an arterial or collector street, the front shall be the side with frontage on the arterial. The LDR defines a corner lot as a lot located at the intersection of two or more streets. Both Rye Lane and Infield Road are classified as local streets that intersect. Therefore, the subject property is considered a corner lot with equal frontage on both Rye Lane and Infield Road. The code does not specify if there's a distinction for corner lots with equal frontage on local streets. However, the code determines setbacks. The setback requirement for properties within the R1AA district are provided in the table. So the minimum required setback for the front is 30 feet. The side, interior, and rear yard is 10 feet, and the street side is 15 feet. The residence is situated 27.2 feet from Infield Road and 14 feet from Rye Lane, and approximately 8 feet from the interior sides. By analyzing the existing structure placement and the setback requirements, it appears the front is established along Infield Road by the largest setback provided. The residence is considered illegally non-conforming to the setbacks. So given the peculiar shaped lot and the building area is constrained to be further set back into the property, limiting the rear and side interior yard to allow a swimming pool. So the request is to construct a swimming pool. So the request to construct a swimming pool is only available on the subject property to the front yard along Infield Road or the corner area where the existing street is located. In consideration of the criteria listed, the board must consider whether special conditions or circumstances exist that are relative to the property, and if the granting of the variance for the pool to encroach 14.2 feet into the minimum required 30-foot yard setback is not likely to confer onto the applicant a special privilege that has been denied for similar requests to properties of a similar configuration and development history. The board should also consider if the variance petition justifies the granting of the variance and the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land. So the lot narrows dramatically towards the front yard, creating the triangular shaped lot. The existing structure is situated 27.2 feet from Infield Road, 14 feet from Rye Lane. The code allows swimming pools to extend into the rear, interior, street side setback area, but no closer than 10 feet, and swimming pools are not allowed in the front yard. So thus, the strict enforcement of the swimming pool locations and the peculiar characteristic of the property prohibits the property owner from constructing a swimming pool on the property. As a result, a variance is sought due to unnecessary hardship created upon the applicant from special conditions and circumstances that exist which are peculiar to the shape of the lot and structure involved, which are not generally applicable to other lands and structures subject to the same zoning. The granting of the variance will not confer unto the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other lands or structures under the same zoning as peculiar characteristics of the lot and structure exist. Other similar triangular shaped lots in the area, such as 210 Infield Road, was granted a variance in 2001 to accommodate a swimming pool within the front yard, and 315 Kings Lane was issued a building permit in 1970 to construct a pool along the right-of-way. The variance is not anticipated to be detrimental to the public or be injurious to the neighborhood. The granting of the variance while it's not the reasonable use of the land, will generally be in harmony with the general purpose and the intent of the existing regulations, as similar properties on corner lots have pools within the front yard. And these are the optional board options. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we are moving on to board discussion.
Public comment.
Public comment. Okay, do we have any public comments on this particular item? I don't think we have any.
Okay. And then we provide the applicant and the city both the opportunity for rebuttal evidence or cross-examination.
Any cross-examination?
No.
Seeing none for that chairperson, then it would become a board discussion at this time.
All right. Anyone wants to start with question?
Can you discuss, please, the wall or the fence that you're putting up?
I'm sorry?
Can you discuss the wall or the fence that you envisioned enclosing the pool?
It is already there. So there,
Can you discuss the
it was-
qualification, the
It's a
characteristics?
6-foot PVC privacy fence that kind of, if you see the survey that's up there now, it runs up the entire property line on the right side of the survey, rounding the corner at the bottom, and comes back up the left side as well, right to where the house starts. I don't know if I can point on the screen somehow. Can I? The top button. Okay, let me see. So the fence will come up this Rye Lane side as well. If I can, there we go. And it'll comes right up to here to the corner of the house. So it encloses the entire side like this, going up and around, and meeting with the existing fence that is up here on the property line between the northeast neighbor. That-
Are there any access points along Enfield Road in the fence? Any gates?
There's 2 gates on the property, so that's going to be down here on that corner that I was saying, over here by the driveway, which is right here, but nothing on Enfield Road. And then the other is on the back side of the house that's existing,
Okay.
back here.
And where is your mailbox? That's on Rye Lane?
Yes.
Okay.
It was actually attached to the house on Rye Lane.
Okay. So there shouldn't be any pedestrian or vehicular access points along Enfield Road?
No.
Okay.
Do you mind if we move for a moment to a slide where we had a real photo of the, I think it was one of the next ones when you can see the neighboring lots, please? A real photo.
The GIS, the satellite shot.
Mm-hmm. You passed by it, I think. Is this one? That's perfect. That's perfect. So I understand that Enfield Road is the one that's considered in this case front road, right? That's the one that we take 30-foot front setback from, yes? And we are not allowed to be into front setback with swimming pool. And normally the rules are that you can be 10 feet away from property line.
Swimming pools are allowed within the rear, interior side, and street side, but with a 10-foot setback from the property line.
Okay. So I guess my main question is, when I look what's happening across the street, the neighbor that has a very similar situation, I see that in this case we have the swimming pool placed in this kind of dead narrow corner of the lot. What is the reason why we cannot apply the same solution in your case?
On the southern point of our lot, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So there's a massive oak tree there that has to be at least 100 years old, and I would strongly prefer not to put it there, and I don't think still then we'd have it, both sides would be frontage. So the pool would be encroaching in that 10-foot setback on Rye Lane then as well, either way. So if you put it down in that corner, it's going to be too close to both streets, from what I understand.
Well, I'm asking if you put it in this corner, but following the regulations, so not being only as close as you're allowed, right? respecting this 30-foot setback and whatever is the side street setback? I'm sorry, I don't remember.
15.
15. Do you know, did you guys explore what the area of the pool would be? Is it even doable?
So I just want to make sure that we're talking about putting
We're
it
talking
down.
about this
Yeah,
corner.
can I get a
yes.
little
Right.
clarification on that from the city? Would both of those streets are considered frontage and both of them are 30-foot setbacks? At the moment,
Yes, those are both
Right.
frontages.
so there is no side 10-foot setback.
Correct. There's actually no side setback. The slide is incorrect on the information there, but it's frontage along both Enfield and Rye Lane, so they would require a front setback. There's an existing nonconformity with the existing structure.
Okay.
So in this case, we're kind of dealing with two front 30-foot setbacks, which is reducing this corner.
Right. In addition to a
Significantly.
100-year-old tree that I don't think we realized was, or I'm sorry, I don't want to speak for the planner on the project.
Mhm.
I didn't realize it was there until he mentioned it and looking at the overheads. So.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, what are the city's rules when it comes to these trees? I understand it would have to be mitigated in case they wanted to place anything where it grows.
I mean, if they removed the tree for the pool,
Yeah, that would be pretty much
uh,
more detailed analysis because there's a certain number of street trees and a certain total number of coverage of different types and where they need to be. So in theory, they might be able to remove that tree with no mitigation. There's also some Florida statutes that if the tree was causing a harm to people or property that it wouldn't matter, that the tree could just be removed regardless of our regulations. So I don't think we'd really be able to answer that question fully without a more detailed full analysis. But relocating it, as you're indicating, kind of further into that corner, is going to trigger a second variance, one needed for each street instead of just the one that they're seeking today.
All right. And it was also mentioned that the lot is non-conforming. I understand that's about the size, right? What is the minimum size for this area for the lot to be conforming?
So the lot size is conforming to the lot width, considering the amount is on corner lots it's over 100 or over 90, I believe, on corner lots. But specifically, the structure is non-conforming to the setbacks.
So the structure is non-conforming, but the size of the lot for the zone is conforming.
I know it's conforming to the lot width, so each lot is required a certain lot width, and it exceeds that minimum.
I understand. Okay, I don't have any more questions. Anyone else? We're gonna be voting.
Yes, so Chair, as a reminder for Board of Adjustments, I'll actually be reading the board order aloud. The board order contains all 6 elements that are detailed in the staff report and that are found in land development regulations. Pursuant to our land development regulations, in order for variance to be granted by this board, 5 members must vote in the affirmative. So because we only have 5 members present, all 5 members would need to find positive findings for each of the elements in order for this variance to be granted. After each variance, I'll stop and Diane will do a roll call. The way the board order is written, there's no trick questions, no double negatives. So after each element, when Diane does a roll call, if you think the element is met, supports the variance, then your vote would be yes. If you find that the element is not met and the variance is not supported, then the answer would be no. Okay, so I'm going to begin the Board of Adjustments.
One question. In the situation like that, when we have only 5 board members, do we usually, I know that sometimes we would check with the applicant if they want to proceed, they would.
So
still
that
have
was a practice that had been offered, it's been at least over a year at this point, if not longer. The issue is that we kind of create the opportunity for forum shopping. We're waiting until you think you have the right board members present or not present. So currently, if the application has been presented and there's not direction from the board that the application should really be amended in order to receive some type of positive finding, we typically, once we get to this position, we just go straight into the vote so that we're consistently applying the process to all applicants regardless of which members are present or not present or how many are present.
That sounds fair. Thank you.
Great. This is the Board of Adjustment final board order for file number 2023-268 for the hearing on December 7th, 2023 for the property located at 509 Rye Lane. The request is consideration of a variance from the Land Development Regulations, Section 4.6.15 G1, to allow a swimming pool to encroach 14.2 feet into the front setback. Pursuant to the Land Development Regulations, Section 2.411A5, following consideration of all the evidence and testimony, the Board of Adjustments for the City of Delray Beach finds as follows. 1. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not generally applicable to other land structures or buildings subject to the same zoning. Diane?
Brenda Cullen absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles is absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
2. That literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning.
Brenda Cullen is absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles is absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
3. That the special conditions and circumstances have not resulted from the actions of the applicant.
Brenda Cullen is absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles is absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
4. That granting the variance will not confer unto the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other land, structures, and buildings under the same zoning.
Brenda Cullen is absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles is absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
5. That the reasons set forth in the variance petition justify granting of the variance and that the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure.
Brenda Cullen is absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
And 6. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of existing regulations, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare.
Brenda Cullen absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
The Board of Adjustments has just made positive finding for all 6 elements in the land development regulations. Can I please get a board member other than the chair to make a motion to approve the variance request?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Diane, please call the roll.
Brenda Cullen absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
Pursuant to LDR Section 2.17F, all decisions of the Board of Adjustment are final. Based on the entire record before it, the Board of Adjustment approves the variance for the purposes presented at the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Chair, we can usually use this downtime that staff's getting prepared. We can go ahead and call the item, which would be 8B442 Commodore Circle, and then you can ask for ex parte.
Do we have an ex parte communication on this one? No ex parte communication.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Buse, planner for the City of Delray. This is item number 2023-266. This is 442 Commodore Circle within the Pelican Harbor neighborhood, and the applicant is there.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Glenn Gamble. I'm here with my wife Karen. We're the owners of 442 Commodore Circle. Please forgive my crude PowerPoint presentation. I just learned it a couple days ago. So we would like to add an office to the first floor of our home on the northeast corner. And in order to do that, we need to remove the current pool and replace it with a new pool. Both my wife and I work, and our current office is located on the second floor. So there's no room for an office on the first floor, and we're getting a little older, and we just like to make life a little easier by having an office on the first floor. So in order to have a normal size office and a normal size pool, we're requesting a variance from the required 20-foot front setback for the pool. We're requesting to encroach 10 feet into the 20-foot setback so that the pool would be 10 feet from the front property line. Our current pool is 15 feet from the front property line, encroaching by 5 feet, which I'm told by Ms. Buse that's a non-conforming use at present. So we live in Pelican Harbor, which is a gated zero-lot line development. All the homes have walls that block the views to the yard. So this is a picture of the front of our house. As you can see, the view to the pool in the backyard is completely blocked. It's on the left-hand side to the left of the garage there. That's the fence, and the pool's behind that. So this is a special condition peculiar to our property and is not generally applicable to most neighborhoods within the same zoning. Here is the rough plans on what we're planning on doing. We would essentially move the wall 5 feet toward the front property line so we could accommodate the pool and the new office. Here's an aerial view. Obviously the marked in red, right there would be the office, then the pool, and then the wall once it's moved towards the front. Currently, our wall is 16 feet from the street. Both of our neighbors on either side, their walls are 11 feet from the street. So our new wall would be in line with the neighbors on both sides of us. Here's my neighbor to the east. As you can see, he's got a solid masonry wall. Our new wall would be a solid masonry wall, just exactly what you're seeing like in the picture on the left. Everything we're doing is in complete harmony with the neighborhood. Now, with regard to the east side interior setback for the pool, as I understand LDR section 4.6.15G4, it's 5 feet for a zero lot line community. So the problem with our lot is, as you can see from the survey slide, is we have an easement there marked in yellow. And that restricts our setback to approximately 12 feet. This restriction is peculiar to our property. Our current pool actually encroaches into this setback by about a foot or two and is 10.5 feet from the neighbor's wall at present. I should note that Ms. Bruce has informed us that the city of Delray would allow us to build a new pool with the same setbacks as our current pool, but this still leaves us with a 10.5 foot setback on the side instead of a 5 foot setback, which all of our neighbors have. Granting the variance in the front would simply allow us to recover some square footage that we've lost because of our special conditions, and therefore it would not be a special privilege. Also, as explained in our application, we did our best to determine the front setbacks of all the pools in the neighborhood with a pool in the front. At a minimum, 7 of the 9 homes we identified encroach into the 20-foot front setback. Therefore, granting our variance would not be a special privilege, and to deny it, I would submit, would deprive us of rights that are commonly enjoyed by our neighbors. Lastly, the Pelican Harbor Homeowners Association supports our variance request, and a letter should have been provided to you on that. Also, I got letters from both of our neighbors supporting our variance request, with, I believe, Ms. Bruce has provided to you this evening. What we're proposing is an improvement to the property. Therefore, it's an improvement to the community, and it really doesn't affect anything negatively, either in the way of safety or aesthetics. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's happened to me all day long on my computer too. Again, this is a variance for a pool. This is 442 Commodore Circle. A consideration of a variance request from the Land Development Regulation section of 4615G1 for the swimming pools, where swimming pools cannot encroach in the front setback. And they are requesting 10 feet where 20 is required. So this is the definition of a variance is a departure from the dimensional or numeric requirements of the land development regulations, where such variance will not be contrary to the public interest and where, owing to the existing conditions peculiar to the property and not the result of actions of the landowner. So this is in a planned residential district, and which provides some flexible densities. This was built in 4 phases, Pelican Harbor, and Pelican Harbor this is in phase 1. Within the planned development residential, it's there to promote an improved design, character, and quality of development, and to preserve natural, scenic, and open space features of the site. I do want to mention that these are all private streets and not city streets within the development. The PRD has a 0 lot line, where it allows one side interior to be 15 feet and the other is at 0. So the single family home was built in 1980, as well as the swimming pool. And the pool is set back right now approximately 15 feet. This was a very complicated research, because some of the other pools in the neighborhood are at 15 feet, and it was hard to figure out why they were at 15 feet, and we found the 1976 code, which was in effect at the time when the house was built, it allowed the pools to extend in 10 feet to the rear and side property, but no closer than 15 feet from any right-of-way. There's no mention of the front setback. So in today's code, it does require it to be out of the front setback, so it is an existing nonconformity at this time. So here I just wanted to show you, this is the 10 feet where the pool would go. This is the addition, and this is the 12-foot drainage easement that they were talking about. These are the findings and analysis. I just wanted to give you a quick view of the home here and show you that this is the request, this is the proposed, where the pool is 204 square feet. The existing is approximately 276 square feet at a 15-foot setback. And if they were required to do the pool at the required 20 feet, the pool would be approximately 85 square feet. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Public comment on the item, yes?
Mhm.
Do we
Kurt,
have
maybe
on it?
next.
We don't have any public comments, so we can move to the board's discussion.
So just first before that, the chance for rebuttal or cross-examination by both
Yes, I forgot
applicants.
about that.
Oh, I have none.
City?
I just want to mention that the letters are at the podium for you guys, at the desk. Diocese.
I have a couple questions
Sure.
for the owner and one for staff. But-
Do you mind just one thing? I just want to say something because I know that we have a lot of new members. If I remember correctly, I know that it's a repetitive pattern that applicants mention some similar situation happening in the neighborhood. Someone had it, right? When we are, they usually mention it, but we are not allowed to take into consideration that something was accepted somewhere else, right? We're supposed
So, yes and no.
to. Okay.
And I'll explain. So we don't consider a prior approval of a similar application to be what we call precedent or require the board to grant the application. So even if hypothetically the multiple pools that were mentioned by the applicant were previously approved through this same process, it doesn't mean that this board automatically has to grant it because other properties were granted that same variance. And that's because every piece of property is unique. Even if they're the same size, you may have different size structures, you may have different setbacks, you may have different neighbors, you may be on or not on a canal or with water access. So every piece of property is going to be unique. So a previous application or previous approval does not bind this board to grant this approval. I do think that it is relevant evidence to the board on whether you might be granting the applicant a special privilege. So when we look at all the different elements, you can see that it wouldn't be like this is the only house that's ever been given a pool in the front in this neighborhood. It could also be relevant to your discussion on whether it be injurious to the neighborhood, because if there are other examples and there's not evidence that they have created harm, so in ways it is applicable evidence to the 6 elements for your consideration. But it is not an automatic requirement that you approve just because this situation exists or may have been granted on other properties, even in the same neighborhood.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's mentioned a lot by applicants, so I thought it's important to clarify. And my colleague to the right had a question?
Yes. So your new pool, your existing pool is encroaching in the drainage easement, right?
Our existing pool is encroaching in the front setback by 5 feet. It is 15 feet from the front property line instead of 20.
Okay, but on the side,
On the side, it's encroaching into that easement about a foot,
Okay.
foot and a half.
but the new pool will not be encroaching into that easement.
Yes.
Okay.
The new pool will not be, we're going long ways and not encroaching into that drainage easement on the side, and we thought it would flow better that way anyway.
And now your new wall would be in line with all of your neighbors on either side.
Correct. Our wall is 5 foot shorter than our neighbors on either side. Don't know why, but it is.
Okay. And then I actually answered my own question for staff, so all good.
Can I ask for a moment to go back to a slide where we showed the lot with the pool, and I believe it's an office addition? Did I understand properly?
Right.
Can we look at that for 1 second? There was one slide where you could see entire lot, not just a fragment. One of the first ones.
Was it this one?
No, this one doesn't show the area.
Was it on his
Might have been one of mine.
presentation?
Might be. Is it a quick thing to switch?
That's the other one.
Oh.
They're both blue.
Yes, this one. So where you see the label room, is that a new office addition?
Right.
Yes? Okay. So I understand that the pool is shifted more, I don't know which direction it is, let's say up the plan. It's shifted up because of the new office location.
Right,
Right?
right. Because of the office,
Okay.
we need to take out the existing pool, build a smaller pool, and we need to push it 5 feet more than the current pool is right now towards the front. And we would move that front wall 5 feet towards the front, which would make it in line with all of our neighbors now.
Mm-hmm. And I also understand your add-in office didn't require an additional variance. I'm just curious.
No.
Okay.
I mean, we still have plans to submit and everything, but it's understanding this is the only variance we need to go through with putting all the more sophisticated plans together, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I guess this is just a question to the city that I have because I always thought about it through the years. One of the conditions is that whatever situation is right now is not a result of applicant's actions, right? And I noticed that whenever the case is about pool, we have it splitted from the kind of entire picture of what's going on. And very often the location of the pool is dictated by some extra work that's being done. Yeah, just for the future purposes, I always wondered, why are we splitting it like that? Why isn't it presented as a whole, taking into consideration that there is an addition and kind of this addition dictates that the pool is gonna be there? That's always the problem that I have with this one condition, that it was not created by the applicant, right? But if the addition of the office wasn't there, there would be enough space to have the pool within. Does it make sense what I'm trying to explain?
No, I think it absolutely does, and I think that's the exact question the board should ask itself when it comes to that item. You can see that both pools that were before you tonight were well, the first pool is an addition, the pool itself, but the property was dictated kind of its location, and then it had two fronts, so that is different than some of the other applications you've seen tonight. And then some of the conditions that are creating the need for a variance that this applicant is searching for, the way that the home is positioned, the way the lots were configured, the fact that it's a zero lot line plan development, some of those issues are not within this applicant's control. Wanting to add an addition onto the home is within the applicant's control. So there's going to be many items of evidence, testimony you're going to hear that may apply to that particular issue you're asking about. And so you as the board members need to weigh that evidence and everything you've heard and determine whether that's sufficient for you to find that this request is not being created by the applicant's own actions.
Mm-hmm. And another question that I have is about this easement to the right that we have there. Did I understand it correctly that easement extends this minimum distance from the property line?
I don't know if I quite understand your question. It does look like right here, it does extend all the way 12 feet to the property line. So what it does do is constrains the applicant from being able to build the pool, probably with the pool in the other direction. So it does limit it.
And I think it was applicant who mentioned it at some point, right? You said that the setback to the right, I'm sorry, I don't know directions, so I'm saying to the right, it's now bigger distance because you have easement there, yes? Did I understand it correctly?
You said, well, we can't turn it the other way because we got a 12-foot setback because of the easement. Everybody else has got 5.
That's what I meant. So it's
So
7
we're
foot more.
we're kind of being screwed because we got an easement.
I understand. That's what I wanted to clarify. Yes.
It's It's actually, well, if they put a pool in, they would have 5 extra feet, but it's actually a 15-foot setback on that side, because the other side is the 0 lot line. So the house is built right up to that lot line.
So on that side, it's 15 feet.
Mhm.
I understand.
Yeah, I
And-
guess I'm confused by that too. So this is not the 0 lot line side where it's 5 feet.
No, the 0 lot line, if you can see it right here, the adjacent building, the neighbor,
Okay, that
that is
building
his
is
0
on
lot
the,
line.
that's on the line.
Yes. So one side allows you, with the neighbor, to have that extra space and not impede onto your neighbor with the 1-0 lot line and the 15 feet.
And who is the drainage easement in favor of?
I'm sorry, what?
Who's the drainage easement in favor of?
Honestly, I don't know.
I believe when I looked at the plat that it was in Pelican Harbor, the association, because they were all private streets, so everything was dedicated to the neighborhood. And this is there's 4 phases. This is a quite large neighborhood.
Yeah. And your HOA community appearance board, or whatever it's called, and your neighbors are all in favor of this?
They're all in favor.
Okay.
And just to clarify, the existing pool is already non-conforming based on its size and
The
placement,
existing pool is
location?
already non-conforming. It's 5 feet closer to the front property line than it should be. And so we're really only asking for another 5 feet.
So if I could really quickly too, it's an existing non-conformity.
Right.
It did meet code back when the house was built in 1980.
Sorry. No problem.
And the rule with these existing nonconformities is that if you purchase the lot with that, it obviously can stay, but you cannot extend it in any way to be more non-conforming, right?
You can't extend it unless you go for the variance, apply for the variance.
And if you would want to put something brand new, then you have to go with the new regulations, right? This
Correct,
what happened
yes.
in
Yes, that's why it's considered existing nonconformity.
But now the new pool will be encroaching 10 feet.
Correct.
If the board grants the variance for 10 feet and the homeowner decides to change that 10 feet to 9 or 11 feet, where is the leeway with our approval for the variance?
You cannot, is it reduce or is it?
Does it have to be 10 or could it be?
You can't build to 9 feet because they would need to come back in and ask for a variance. But if he chose to go 11 feet or 12 feet, it's less than what he's asking for, so they would not have to come back.
You can't expand the nonconformity.
Thank you both.
And another important thing is the variance would go with the land, right? So if we grant it, then in the future, this is the new rule for this lot, right?
Correct.
For whatever new is gonna be built, that's the new rule.
Only for the swimming pool.
For a swimming pool, yes.
Right. We're not
Yes.
shifting the front setback.
Yes. Can someone also clarify the letter that is it something that applicant provided us with?
So it is from his HOA, his homeowners association. Regardless if the variance is granted or not, when he comes in with permit, he does have to have approval from the homeowners association. The homeowner can't just go and seek something that is not supported by the neighborhood or the association.
Okay, I guess with this letter I'm just confused. They put capital letters only. Is it normal way that they put it this way?
We still will have to, even though they're okay with the positioning of the pool, we still have to jump through a lot of other hoops with them. We've got the walls got to be the way they want it, the paint's got to be the way they want it. So there's a whole bunch of other rules that we have to go through, just like all the other rules we have to go through here when we construct everything. So they're saying you can put the pool here, but you still got to jump through all our other hoops on how to, but we want the wall built, etc.
So it's just them taking precautions, making sure that they're clear with you, basically.
Right. They're not saying you can do anything you want.
Okay, all right. Does anyone else have any questions? I guess we're ready to vote.
Okay.
Go. So Chair, again, this will be the same process. I'll read the board order. We'll go through all 6 elements. After each element, Ms. Miller will conduct a roll call. And again, if you find the element is met and the variance is supported, the vote is yes. If you find it to be insufficient, the answer is no. Board of Adjustment final board order for file number 2023-266 for the hearing on December 7th, 2023 for the address at 442 Commodore Drive. This is a request for consideration of a variance from Land Development Regulations 4.6.15G1 to allow a swimming pool to encroach 10 feet into the front setback pursuant to Land Development Regulations 2.4.11A5. Following consideration of all the evidence and testimony, the Board of Adjustments for the City of Delray Beach finds as follows. 1. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not generally applicable to other land, structures, or buildings subject to the same zoning. Ms. Miller?
Brenda Cullen absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles is absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
2. That literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning.
Brenda Cullen absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
3. That the special conditions and circumstances have not resulted from actions of the applicant.
Brenda Cullen absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
4. That granting the variance will not confer unto the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other land, structures, and buildings under the same zoning.
Brenda Cullen absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
5. That the reasons set forth in the variance petition justify granting the variance and that the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure.
Brenda Cullen absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
And 6. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of existing regulations, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare.
Brenda Cullen absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
This time, the Board of Adjustments has made positive findings for all 6 elements required under the Land Development Regulations. Can I please get a motion to approve the variance request?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Item 8B was approved.
Well, so we need a roll call.
Right,
Yep.
who made the second?
I did.
Thank you. Brenda Cullen absent. Jesse Slosser.
Yes.
Mike Miles absent. Alec Hayes.
Yes.
Richard Kasser.
Yes.
Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
Pursuant to LDR Section 2.1.7F, all decisions of the Board of Adjustment are final based on the entire record before it. The Board of Adjustment approved the variance request for the purposes presented at the meeting.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Now, William, this section now for reports and comments, would it be a time when we can discuss whatever was brought at the beginning that's
Yep.
non-agenda item?
Yeah, so we, and at least on the agenda, the order is City Staff Board Attorney Board members. So if you want to stick with that, we'll let Amy drive for a little bit and then work our way through.
I think because there's a member of the.
It's up to the board. If the board would like to discuss the public comment that was provided,
Maybe
it
we
can do
can
so
leave
at this
it
time.
at the end and go with whatever was planned in order.
Not a problem. All right, so, sorry. At your places, you all have a copy of the calendar. You may have also had it emailed to you. So I just wanted to make sure that at least the board members that we have present tonight are in agreement of the upcoming meeting schedule for 2024. As you probably know, all of our meetings are held on the first Thursday in case we need to make an adjustment. We've made those adjustments in this calendar that you've got, or list of dates. It's not actually a calendar. I do want to point out, though, September 5th is the Thursday after Labor Day. I don't know if we want to go ahead and look at changing that to the 19th to kind of head off a shift at that time, or if you think we'll just keep it on the Thursday of Labor Day week and just continue forward as planned. Also, just so you know, if for some reason there's a case where we need to suddenly not have a meeting on one of these days, we would typically ask if we can, if you have availability for the third Thursday of the month. So that's usually our backup date, and you can see that in these other dates that we have here that aren't the first Thursday of the month. They are the third Thursday of the month.
When you say suddenly, how close to the first Thursday are we talking?
Well, unless there's a hurricane coming, we do typically know if. I don't mean it to sound suddenly. That was a little dramatic on my part, I guess. But we do typically know if something has come up and we're not thinking that there's going to be a meeting on that date. But we do have some items that do need to happen. So we would ask you, I mean, to give you a time frame, I'd say before, I don't know, a month, probably 3 weeks, because we've got to write staff reports and notify the applicant, post an agenda the week before the meeting, all of that. So we have to back into it also. So sometimes it does happen. So when it does, it would be the third Thursday of the month. Just in case. But you guys, you would know. You don't need to check in with us on those dates. If you want to check in with us on these dates that are on your list, please feel free, just in case, something is coming up for you, and so you can have peace of mind whether or not we're having a meeting. So again, if, I don't know if anybody has any opinions on switching September, I'm just bringing it up. I really, am not bringing it up because I don't want a meeting on that date. Hopefully I'm not your board liaison at that time, no offense, but I'm kind of filling in for a vacant position at the moment. But that was the only one. But it doesn't sound like anybody has any concerns about it, so we'll keep it. Okay.
I am a gringo and I'm not sure about all of these days off that we have. I never remember. Will this Thursday be directly next to some other day off? That's usually... that's why you're asking, or it's just the same week?
No, it's just the same week.
Gotcha.
Since Labor Day is Monday, or maybe, I think Labor Day is Monday that week, so, just sometimes people take the whole week. Just trying to consider potential vacation
we
time.
appreciate
It's not on my radar just yet.
It's early, right?
It's not our
Yes.
name.
Well,
we appreciate it, though.
yes. So that was that one. Let's see. So that's the meeting calendar. So our board meeting. So this is an adjustment. January 18th. We would have actually had intended on having a meeting on January 4th, but City Commission is meeting on January 4th instead of January 2nd. So because of that shift in their schedule, it made us shift to January 18th. So that's your next meeting. We already do have some items anticipated for the agenda. So please plan on being here that evening. I will not be here. Our director will be covering that meeting for me at that time. And then you'll have another meeting on February 1st. So we will always plan on having meetings. If we're not having a meeting, you will find out the week before. At least the week before, when it's time for us to post an agenda. Obviously, like I said, we have to prepare staff reports, and we know whether or not we have items. So we'll let you know at least a week before. So right now, these are the anticipated dates. And then just city emails and communication. Diane is our board secretary. And then you can also copy me on any communications regarding, just any questions about anything, or if you need to let her know that you can't make a meeting. Hopefully we don't receive any of those emails, but or hopefully you don't send them. Hopefully we receive them if you send them. But just, just keep us in the loop on anything. And then, of course, if you have any questions about any items or anything, please feel free to reach out. We're here to help you and support you as a board member because we appreciate your time with us. One more thing I just wanted to mention, because our chair asked about variances running with the land. So we recently adopted new regulations in our Chapter 2 of our land development regulations. So the section for variances now has an expiration of variance approvals. We didn't previously have this. I didn't want to bring this up during the previous item because it was submitted prior to the adoption of this ordinance. So, I don't know that it would be applicable. So now, when variances are not associated with a concurrent site plan approval, they're void 12 months following the date of the approval unless a building permit has been issued. So that they run with the land for that amount of time. So it's not like 10 years later, hey, we got a variance, now we want to build something, and your conditions and context is completely different. But if it's associated with a site plan, then it's void upon the expiration of the site plan. So we do have that distinction now. Also, something that changed is...
Can you clarify? What do you mean by associated with site plan? I'm confused by that.
With a larger site plan, it's probably for you all, you may not come across something, I guess, as specific. Well, it's really...
You're saying if they come get a variance and then they don't use it for some reason, after a year it goes away.
Right.
Is it like with the permit being valid for 180 days, and if they don't commence construction, then it's invalid anymore? Is it the same situation?
Well, yeah, you basically need to get a permit within 12 months. An issued permits, not just requested.
But once they issued the permit, then this variance goes with the land, right?
Then it goes with the land as far as that request goes.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So one of the other changes that we made was that variances that you will see will now only be single family and duplex. You'll no longer see multifamily or commercial variances, because those variances are going to be reviewed concurrent with the overall larger site plan request that's going through the whole review process, and those will now be reviewed by Planning and Zoning Board. Because our process was previously quite a bit bifurcated with you go here, you go here, you go there, and everybody wants to talk about different components, and we were saying, no, you can't, because that's not the request in front of you. But so now it'll be a more holistic review. So your variances are really going to be single family and duplexes, but that is where the majority of the variance requests are, really. There's very few that are not single family or duplex related that we've processed. So anyway, so I just wanted to bring up those updates. And I think that's all I had.
So I wanted to ask about what was mentioned to begin with. I think that this particular case was the one that I was not present for, but I know that there is another one that we board members received an email about similar situation. We voted no. They were informing us that in order to kind of cancel it, one of the board members needs to kind of ask for that. And I'm afraid that out of all the members that voted no, I'm the only one who's left over. So I would like to know what exactly is going on there.
So, the motion to reconsider comes from our local rules. And the rules specifically say that an action may be reconsidered at the same meeting or the very next meeting. A motion to reconsider can only be made by a member who voted on the prevailing side of the motion. The motion to reconsider should very rarely be used because these decisions should carry some form of finality with them. Additionally, with the Board of Adjustments, and variances, our rules actually don't, but the rules require them to appeal actually to circuit court. So I would argue my belief that there's even more finality to a Board of Adjustment decision because it doesn't get appealed to City Commission. It would need to go, they'd actually have to appeal to the circuit court. But the motion for reconsideration, the reason it needs to be made by a prevailing side of that motion, member of the prevailing side, is because they need to, that finality needs to be there, and additionally, if some member that didn't agree with that action of the board was able to make the motion itself later, when you have a change in composition like we see now, just the mere change of who's been appointed or who might be present erodes that finality that we talk about. So really the individuals that were part of that prevailing side that made that decision need to be the ones that bring forth, I think we should revisit this item I approved. Now, unfortunately for this applicant, there are actually 4 board members on this current board that were on the board at the time this item came before it in October. Chairperson Hayes, you've already acknowledged you were not present, so you did not vote, so you would not be able to make a motion for reconsideration. The chair at that time, Robert Cohen, and board member Vlad Dimitrescu voted on the prevailing side, but they are no longer on the board. Board member Mike Miles and board member Brenda Cullinan did vote on that prevailing side. They are not here tonight. And I always have anxiety over pronouncing this correctly.
Slosher.
Mr. Slosher was on the board, but he actually voted no on the motion to deny the variance, so he was not on the prevailing side. So this is a very unique circumstance I've not seen before, but we actually have a situation where there are 5 board members present. 2 of them are not present at this meeting. 2 of them are no longer on the board, and the 1 member that is present was actually not on the prevailing side of that motion. So underneath our local rules, there's no one present tonight that can actually make a motion to reconsider that item.
And it needs to be this following meeting, the one after the voting.
So the paragraph, the local rules, say that specifically. There is only in a very, very limited instance could it be considered at a future date, but it really requires a change of factual circumstances. I did have the opportunity to read the letter that was provided by the applicant that spoke at public comment. I didn't see any new facts, but if there was some type of factual change, there's really 2 avenues of relief that I believe exist. One would be potentially for motion reconsideration, but that might also open the door for them to submit a new application. I don't know that with certainty. That's conjecture and hypothetical, so I can't say that with certainty. It would really depend on the circumstances, but you really need the factual circumstances surrounding the application to have changed. And it doesn't appear based upon the letter that was provided that there's been any change in facts, more just a request to revisit the board's previous decision, which unfortunately tonight there's no member present that can make that motion, and so the motion for reconsideration cannot be entertained or made.
And when they ask for that, either it's an applicant present here like today, or in the other case when I was present, I believe it was last meeting that we had, they sent, the lawyer sent a meeting, representation of the applicant send an email, right, asking for us to take action. This is just an informal request. This is not something that requires any response from us. It's just if we want to pursue it, we can, right?
That is correct, and I'm glad you brought that up because I meant to touch that and I forgot. So motion to reconsider, there's no right to a motion to reconsider. There's no process that allows the applicant to automatically get a second bite at the apple through this process. So the motion to reconsider is solely within the board's discretion. It can even be made by a board member without an applicant asking for it technically, but I would advise the board to never take that route. But there's no right for this board to make a motion or for the applicant to go through some process to force the board to vote yes or no on a motion to reconsider. This is just creates the opportunity that if someone, a board member on the prevailing side of the motion, feels that that wasn't correct for whatever reasons, that they have the opportunity to ask for the board to revisit that item.
Understood. I guess there is one last thing. I know that at some point I got a phone call from someone from the city. I apologize, I don't remember who exactly called, but it was about a new setup for a mailbox, that at some point we will be getting new passwords and something might not work. Is that something still coming, or?
So that kind of segues into my list of things I was going to bring up tonight, which is great. First, I do want to welcome all the new members to Board of Adjustments. It's good to have you, and some faces I've not seen before, so I look forward to getting to know you guys better. Just remind you that if you have not completed your ethics training, you need to do so. If you're not sure if you've done it or if you need to fill out any paperwork regarding the ethics training, you can contact Ms. Miller or the clerk's office and they'll be able to assist you. For my members that are not new, ethics training is valid for 2 years. So if you haven't done it in the last 2 years, you'll need to do your ethics training as well. If you can't remember, Ms. Miller or the clerk's office. Ms. Jellin, the city attorney, along with Ms. Gianotes, the development services director, who apparently is joining us at the next meeting, are working on a video that has a very extensive board training, gives you a lot of direction on things to look out for, how to discuss items, etc. So look, that should be provided to you here in the near future, hopefully. For now, there's two important areas I'm going to briefly touch on. The first is our sunshine laws. So any decision making by the board and discussion of items that might be before the board has to be done in the sunshine, has to be open to the public has to have notice it's happening. So that means that you as board members cannot discuss items that could reasonably come before the board with each other outside of a public meeting. That doesn't mean you can't talk to each other, so you don't have to turn around and leave the same grocery aisle if you see each other. You can say hi, you can be cordial. If you're already friends, you can still hang out in a friendly setting, but you just cannot discuss any items that may come before the board. That rule does not apply to any discussions or questions you may have that you want to talk to staff about, whether it's a planner, whether it's me, whether it's Diane. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the planner or to myself. You're allowed to talk to us without it being in a public setting. If you discuss an application, though, with staff or with myself, that will be considered ex parte communication. So when we ask about that, you would just say, I had questions with staff, or staff, answered my questions where we discussed items. The second area I'll briefly touch on is public records. Anything that you create in furtherance of your position with the board is a public record. Whether that's on your personal cell phone, whether that's on your personal email, that still is a public record. So if you just keep that in mind. So any text messages or emails you may receive or send that have to do with your position on the board, and sometimes we'll see, obviously you all work, live, or both in the community, so people may reach out to your personal email, your personal cell phone, hey, I see this item's coming up and I think it's great or I think it's terrible. Those are still public records, even though they'd be on your individual emails or cell phones. So make sure you get your My Delray Beach email set up. IT can help you with that. It sounds like they've already reached out to at least our chairperson. If you've not heard from them, please contact Ms. Miller. If you receive any email or communications like that to your personal email, just forward it directly to your work email or your board member email, so that if we have public records requests, we have access to those and we can fulfill those without having to ask to go through your personal emails, which I don't think you or public records people would prefer to do. And that's it for me, Chair, and I appreciate your time and I look forward to seeing you all again in January.
One last, driving by the site, is that still considered ex parte?
So if you drive by the site for the purpose of looking at the site in furtherance of your review of the application, yes. If you live in that neighborhood and you drive by it 12 times a week to and from work, or grocery store, and it just happens to be on that route, that's not necessarily an ex parte communication because you're not taking that action while in the scope of analyzing the application. My advice to you, even if you do drive past it 12 times a day just by coincidence, you can always just say, hey, I drive by the site all the time. And if it's not necessarily for that purpose, either way, over disclosure can be better than non-disclosure.
Anything I need to do at the end?
No, if there's nothing else, then you just say adjourned and you get to slam the gavel.
We're not listening to the applicant at all, or?
No, so generally,
We did say we were going to give her some time to present.
well,
her.
that's up to the board if they want to provide additional time. I mean, they're given a right as the public to provide public comment, and that right was given to them. During board comment is totally up to the board. So as the board has discretion, if it would like to hear anything further from the individual that provided public comment, it can. I just would say that at this point, it's been determined that nobody can make a motion to reconsider. So,
There's nothing we can do, right?
but that is within the board's discretion if you'd like any further comment or not on that.
That's because we're missing tomorrow.
So the local rules specifically say that a motion to reconsider can only be made by a member who voted on the prevailing side. And those members were Mike Miles, who's not present tonight, Vlad Dimitrescu, who's not on the board, Brenda Cullinan, who's also absent tonight, and Robert Cohen, who's also not on the board. And then Mr.
You say however you want.
Schlosser?
Schlosser.
Yeah, thank you. Schlosser was present, but he actually voted no on the motion, so he's not on the prevailing side.
So I guess since there is nothing we can do anyway, yes? Okay, meeting adjourned?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I got a new opinion on things.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, on everything. I thought I was helping them by just staying firm to them.